Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today, I want to speak to you about a force that has shaped history, driven movements, and sustained countless leaders through the toughest of times. Hope. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is not blind optimism. In leadership, hope is a strategic force. It is the belief in a better future, coupled with the commitment to take steps toward that future, even when the path is unclear. When times are tough, people look to leaders not just for direction, but for belief that things can get better. Hope is what allows leaders to say, yes, it's hard, but we will rise. We will overcome. When many people hear the word hope, they often dismiss it as something soft, emotional, or even naive, a kind of passive optimism that ignores the hard facts. But in leadership, hope is far from naive. It is not about denying reality or pretending that everything is fine. Instead, hope is deeply strategic, a calculated, intentional mindset that drives vision, purpose, and perseverance. Leaders who embrace hope do not turn away from the harsh truths. They face adversity with open eyes, fully aware of the obstacles, challenges, and risks. But they make a deliberate choice to anchor their perspective in possibility, in the belief that solutions exist, that change is achievable, and that the future can be better than the present. This is not false confidence. It is a strategy that keeps momentum alive when everything else threatens to stall it. Hope allows a leader to build a narrative that sustains energy over time. It gives meaning to sacrifice, frames setbacks as temporary, and helps teams stay emotionally engaged in long-term goals. In moments when data is discouraging, when market conditions are tough, or when morale is low, hope becomes the differentiator between giving up and pushing forward. It is a leadership tool, one that shapes culture, fuels creativity, and empowers people to take bold steps despite uncertainty. In a world driven by metrics, logic, and efficiency, hope might seem intangible, even risky, but the best leaders understand that human beings are not machines. They are driven by emotions, values, and belief. A hopeful leader doesn't ignore spreadsheets. They supplement them with vision. They understand that while fear shrinks possibilities, hope expands them. Think of hope as the fuel in the engine. Strategy is the vehicle. Planning is the roadmap. But without hope, the engine dies. No matter how perfect your plan or how advanced your tools, without belief in a better outcome, your team won't have the heart to keep going. Hope, then, is not just emotional. It's essential to execution. It's not a luxury, it's a lever. One of the greatest misconceptions about hope is that it is passive, that it's something you simply hold on to while waiting for circumstances to change. But in the realm of leadership, hope is one of the most powerful activators of action. It doesn't cause people to sit and wait, it compels them to stand up, move forward, and persist when others would retreat. When people are hopeful, they begin to imagine new possibilities. They start thinking beyond survival and begin envisioning growth. That shift in mindset is critical. Without hope, action feels pointless, a meaningless struggle against forces too big to overcome. But with hope, action becomes purposeful, energized by the belief that every effort counts and every step moves them closer to something better. Hope creates a psychological state of momentum. It ignites a sense of agency, that what we do matters, that our choices shape the outcome, and that we are not helpless even in the face of adversity. Leaders who communicate hope effectively don't just inspire emotion, they activate initiative, they spark movement, they turn resignation into responsibility and fear into forward motion. Think of a team in crisis. Productivity is low, morale is even lower, and no one sees a way out. Now imagine a leader who walks in, not ignoring the facts but saying with conviction, "We have what it takes to rebuild." This is not the end of our story. That message, delivered with authenticity and backed by a plan, can resurrect drive. Suddenly, people who were disengaged start thinking creatively, offering ideas, volunteering to help, staying late, trying again. That's not accidental. That's the power of hope at work. Research in psychology also supports this. Studies show that hope correlates strongly with higher levels of goal-directed behavior, improved problem solving, and greater persistence. Hopeful individuals are more likely to set goals, develop pathways to reach them, and stay committed to those goals despite setbacks. In short, hopeful people do more. They don't sit still. They move. And in organizations, when hope is present in leadership, Teams become more resilient, adaptable, and aligned. Hope turns vision into motion. It bridges the gap between current struggle and future success. It helps people say, yes, this is difficult, but it's not the end. Let's take the next step. Hope doesn't just comfort, it compels. It doesn't just soothe, it stimulates. It pushes people beyond survival mode and into solution mode. Motivator. And that's exactly what a leader needs to cultivate during seasons of change, uncertainty, or disruption. Leadership is not just about managing tasks or directing operations. At its core, leadership is about influence, and influence is deeply rooted in belief. People follow leaders not simply because of their title or authority, but because of the conviction they carry. In times of uncertainty, disruption, or hardship, teams look to their leaders for one critical thing: belief. Belief that there is a way forward, belief that the mission still matters, and belief that they collectively are capable of reaching it. A leader's belief becomes the emotional barometer of the organization. If a leader appears defeated, hopeless, or indifferent, that attitude spreads quickly throughout the team. Doubt multiplies. Fear takes root. But when a leader speaks with conviction, even in the face of difficulty, when they show resilience, confidence, and unwavering faith in the team's ability to overcome, that belief becomes contagious. It lifts spirits, it strengthens resolve, it creates emotional alignment that leads to unified action. Every group, no matter how talented, will face moments where the path forward is not clear, when progress feels slow, when setbacks pile up, when motivation dips. In those moments, a leader doesn't just remind the team of the plan, they remind the team of their potential. They say, I believe in you, I believe in what we're doing, I believe we can get there. That belief is more than motivational. It becomes the psychological scaffolding that helps people keep climbing. But belief is not just expressed through words. It shows in a leader's tone, posture, consistency, and presence. It's revealed in how they show up when things go wrong. Do they panic or do they stay calm? Do they assign blame or do they rally the team? When leaders consistently carry belief, especially when it would be easier to fold, they model emotional resilience and instill courage in others. Belief is also what gives hope its legs. Hope alone may stir the heart, but belief grounds it. It gives it structure. Belief says, not only is something better possible, but I trust that we have what it takes to reach it. That kind of leadership creates psychological safety, the confidence that even in failure, the journey matters, that people are supported, that their contributions are meaningful, and that they are part of something bigger than themselves. In essence, leaders serve as mirrors. When people look to them, they want to see reflected back not just competence or charisma. They want to see someone who believes deeply in the mission, the process, and most importantly, in them. Because belief is the foundation upon which all action is built. Without it, strategy falls flat. With it, even the most daunting goals begin to feel within reach. It's easy to assume that hope is the easier path, that it's a soft, comforting response to hardship. But in leadership, hope is one of the most courageous choices a person can make. It takes incredible strength to remain hopeful in the face of setbacks, chaos, or prolonged uncertainty. In fact, there is nothing passive or naive about hope. It is an active, often defiant act of bravery. To lead with hope means standing in the middle of a storm and choosing not to be consumed by fear or despair. It means looking at broken systems, struggling teams, financial challenges, or external threats, and still saying, we are not done. We are not giving up. There is still a way forward. That statement doesn't come from blind optimism. It comes from a deep well of inner courage. Courage and hope are intimately connected because hope requires vulnerability. It asks a leader to show up fully, not with all the answers, but with a belief that answers can be found. It requires a willingness to admit when things are tough while still pointing toward a better horizon. That balance is not easy to strike. It's far simpler to default to cynicism, to retreat into blame, or to rely solely on logic without vision. But courageous leaders resist those impulses. They choose hope, even when it feels risky. There is also courage in going first. Hopeful leaders often have to be the first to believe, the first to imagine new possibilities, and the first to act. They step forward even when no one else sees the path. That act of emotional leadership, of holding space for possibility when others are stuck in doubt, is bold and costly. It requires inner strength, emotional endurance, and an unwavering commitment to something greater than comfort or safety. Hope also means being willing to lead others through disappointment without letting it define the future. Courageous leaders don't pretend setbacks didn't happen. They acknowledge them, learn from them, and then inspire others to keep going. They recognize that fear is contagious, but so is hope, and they make a conscious decision to spread hope even when they themselves feel the weight of uncertainty. Perhaps most importantly, it takes courage to keep hoping again and again and again. Leadership is rarely a one-time act of inspiration. It's a repeated effort to reignite belief, especially when results are slow or resistance is high. That repetitive choosing of hope. When fatigue sets in, when criticism arises, when the pressure builds, is one of the clearest signs of a courageous heart. Anyone can be hopeful when things are going well. True leaders are hopeful when they have every reason not to be. Resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt to change, and keep going in the face of adversity, is one of the most essential qualities in leadership and team dynamics. But what often goes unspoken is the hidden fuel that makes resilience possible. Hope. Without hope, resilience fades. With hope, it grows stronger, even under the heaviest pressure. Resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about pressing forward with purpose, even after experiencing failure, loss, or fatigue. And the only way people find the strength to press forward is when they believe that their effort is leading somewhere meaningful. Hope gives that belief its foundation. It reminds people that their struggle is not wasted, that their pain has a purpose, and that their sacrifices are building towards something better. That's what sustains energy when motivation wanes. Not just grit, but a vision that makes the struggle worth enduring. When a team is hopeful, it can absorb more turbulence without breaking. Hope gives people the emotional elasticity to stretch, adapt, and re-engage when things don't go according to plan. It prevents the onset of helplessness, the feeling that nothing you do matters, which is one of the greatest threats to morale and performance. Instead, hope plants the seed that even in difficulty, progress is possible, solutions can be found, and the future is still being shaped. Leaders who instill hope help build resilient cultures, not by eliminating hardship, but by reframing it. They help teams see failure not as the end, but as a chapter in the journey. They shift the narrative from "we're stuck" to "we're learning." This change in perspective is subtle but profound. Because resilient people don't just endure pressure, they grow under it. Hope turns pressure into growth by keeping the mind focused on what's ahead rather than what's lost. Moreover, hope allows teams and individuals to recover faster. When hope is absent, people ruminate on their failures, internalize defeat, and become hesitant to try again. But when hope is present, setbacks are seen as temporary. The focus remains forward. Hope provides the mental agility to pivot, the emotional strength to persevere, and the confidence to take new risks after failure. In other words, it shortens the recovery time and strengthens the bounce back. From a neurological and psychological standpoint, hope has even been shown to impact stress resilience. Studies indicate that individuals who score high on hope tend to manage stress more effectively, exhibit lower levels of anxiety, and demonstrate more consistent levels of well-being during prolonged challenges. This isn't just emotional fluff. It's cognitive fuel that influences performance and mental health. In leadership, fostering hope is not about pretending things are easy. It's about helping people find meaning in difficulty and reason to believe that pushing forward will pay off. That belief doesn't just inspire, it sustains, it keeps the fire burning long after the first burst of enthusiasm fades, and it empowers people to get up every time they're knocked down. The concept of hope in leadership is not just theoretical or inspirational. It is deeply rooted in the lived experiences of some of the most impactful leaders in history. Time and time again, the power of hope has proven to be the force that sustains movements, revives nations, and unites people in the face of overwhelming adversity. Hope has not just accompanied great leadership, it has defined it. Consider Nelson Mandela, one of the most enduring symbols of resilient hope for leadership. After spending 27 years in prison for opposing apartheid in South Africa, Mandela emerged not bitter or broken, but hopeful for reconciliation, for unity, for a new South Africa. His hope was not rooted in naive idealism. It was a conscious choice to rise above vengeance and lead a country toward healing. That hope inspired not just a political shift, but a moral one. He transformed a divided nation not through force, but through the moral authority of hopeful vision. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who famously declared, "I have a dream." And that dream was not a simple wish, it was a deeply rooted hope that America could rise above racism and fulfill its promise of equality and justice. Dr. King's leadership was profoundly hopeful. Even in the face of brutal oppression, his belief in nonviolence, in dignity, in unity, and in eventual change became a powerful mobilizing force. His hope wasn't detached from the brutality around him, it was forged in it. And that is precisely what gave it strength. We see the same in Winston Churchill, who led Britain through the darkest days of World War II. His speeches did not deny the grim reality of war. In fact, he famously acknowledged the blood, toil, tears, and sweat that lay ahead. But even as he described hardship, he paired it with a firm hope in ultimate victory. That duality, the willingness to speak the truth while simultaneously affirming faith in the future, galvanized an entire nation. Hope was not a luxury during the war. It was a weapon of endurance. Even outside of politics, in business and innovation, the most influential leaders have leaned on hope as a driver of transformation. Steve Jobs, when returning to a struggling Apple in the late 1990s, didn't just implement new technology, he reignited belief in what Apple could become. His vision, his storytelling, his relentless focus on possibilities sparked a resurgence that redefined the tech industry. That was hope in action, not just in product, but in potential. Sure. What these historical examples show us is that hope is not a secondary trait or a bonus quality for a feel-good in leadership. It is a core ingredient in turning the tide of human events. Hope leads people through suffering with their spirit intact. It allows them to believe that their efforts can have impact even when results are not immediate. It lifts people out of fear and into purpose. And when that kind of leadership is on display, it doesn't just move individuals, it moves generations. Hope is what kept people marching in Selma. It's what kept Mandela envisioning freedom behind bars. It's what steadied the British people under the threat of bombs. It's what inspired millions to rally behind dreams that seemed impossible at the time. And it is this history, lived, tested, and proven, that reminds us hope works. It has shaped the past, and it will continue to shape the future wherever leaders are brave enough to hold it. At its deepest level, hope is not just a personal force, it is a relational force. It draws people together, it unifies. It builds trust, cultivates empathy, and creates a shared emotional experience that forges bonds in ways that logic and strategy alone cannot. In leadership, hope is the invisible thread that connects hearts, aligns efforts, and weaves individuals into a cohesive, committed team. When a leader expresses genuine hope, they're not simply offering encouragement. They are extending an emotional bridge to others. They are saying, "We're in this together. I see what you're going through, and I believe in what we can become." That message resonates on a human level. It cuts through resistance, hierarchy, fear, and even conflict, because hope speaks to our most innate human desire, the desire to belong to something meaningful and to move forward with purpose. Hope provides a collective narrative, something people can rally around. In any organization or community, people come from different backgrounds, bring different strengths, and carry different struggles. But when a leader articulates a hopeful vision, one that speaks not just to goals, but to why those goals matter, it creates emotional cohesion. People start to see themselves not as isolated workers or individuals, but as part of a shared journey. That shift is powerful. It transforms disconnection into unity and apathy into commitment. Consider how hope can function during moments of crisis. When people are scared, tired, or uncertain, division often creeps in. Blame, suspicion, and withdrawal begin to replace trust and collaboration. But when hope is present, when a leader speaks into the pain and says, "We will get through this together," it brings people back into connection. It reminds them of their shared values, their shared struggles, and most importantly, their shared future. Hope also allows space for empathy and vulnerability, both of which are foundational to strong leadership. A hopeful leader is not one who pretends to have all the answers. but one who creates a safe space for others to bring their concerns and still feel inspired. When people feel heard and seen and still walk away feeling uplifted and determined, that's the effect of hope at work. It encourages open dialogue without collapsing into despair. It allows room for emotional honesty without losing sight of progress. In addition, hope fosters interdependence. It helps individuals understand that while their roles are important, their power is magnified when linked with others. In a hopeful culture, people are more likely to support each other, to share ideas, to take responsibility not just for their own success, but for the success of the group. It breaks down silos and builds bridges, emotionally, intellectually, and operationally. On a deeper level, human beings are drawn to hope because it reminds us that we are not alone, that others too believe in the possibility of better days. That shared belief becomes a powerful social bond. In a world that often emphasizes speed, results, and control, it's easy to overlook the quiet, steady force of hope. But history has shown us, and our own lives continue to prove, that the most enduring leaders are not just those with the sharpest strategy or the loudest voice. They are those who carry hope when others can't. They are those who light the way when the path disappears. They are those who remind us not just of what we do, but why it matters. Hope is not weakness. It is strength under pressure. It is vision under fire. It is vision under fire. It is love in action. And when a leader chooses hope, they don't just inspire. They ignite. They breathe life into tired hearts. They spark courage in anxious minds. And they create movements that live far beyond their own time. So if you lead in your home, in your work, in your community, remember this: never underestimate the power of hope. Because when you lead with hope, you lead with humanity. And there is no force more powerful, more unifying, or more transformative than that. In families, in companies, in communities, in movements, hope gives people a sense of belonging, not just to the present moment, but to a larger mission. It's what transforms a group of individuals into a team, a community, or even a revolution. In the end, hope is the language of connection. Connection. It speaks to the heart. It moves beyond transactional leadership and into transformational leadership. The kind that doesn't just produce results, but produces unity, trust, and loyalty. A hopeful leader becomes not just a voice, but a beacon. Someone who brings people together, not just around a task, but around a vision worth pursuing together.